This is the Louie T Network.
See, first come the preseason, and I don't take a day off. And then my team was 6-10, and we ain't smell the playoffs. Yeah, I seen the Super Bowl, but I heard they just play balls. A lot of teams had injuries. Sam Bradford had to take off. Go hard in the offseason, but you don't know the half. Before you know, we gon' look up, and we ready for the draft. They dressed up in that suit top, and I don't know how to act. They waiting, so patient, so they can put on that hat. Who else could it be? But your man Luke. Okay, so when she asks you where you was at, you tell her you in the lab room. Who else could it be? Who? But your man Luke. Okay, so when she asks where you was at, you can tell her you was in the lab room. Yeah.
So we pick up with part 2 of the hurry up offense in week number 4 in the National Football League. We go to Green Bay and San Francisco. 49ers at home taking on this Packers team. Colin Kaepernick had a lot of success prior to this game versus the Green Bay Packers, and Aaron Rodgers 4-0 versus the Green Bay Packers. But different team, different head coach, different situation. Not the same thing going on right now. We'll start with Green Bay in this football game. Aaron Rodgers picks right up where he left off on Monday night when he scorched the Kansas City Chiefs. For 5 touchdowns. Now, I will say, he was aided by a huge penalty, and I thought that penalty set the tone for the game because without that penalty, they got a punt, and that was an impressive start to the game defensively for the 49ers. They were going to get off the field and pin the Packers deep within their own territory. They were going to have to punt the football from their own end zone. 49ers going to get great field position. That was the type of tone you wanted to set if you're the 49ers, but Will Hoyt flagged for illegal contact down the field. They had actually bottled up Aaron Rodgers and they sacked him, and that was going to be a great start to the game for the 49ers. Instead, he gets new life, drives the team right down the field, finds the tight end Richard Rodgers in the end zone, and even though they didn't blow the game wide open after that, that was a tone setter of sorts for the Packers in this game, as that gave them some momentum, gave them a lead that they would never relinquish in this game. And when you're not a good team, which the 49ers aren't right now, you can't have those type of things happen. Jerome Elliott is playing some football, folks. And that's the kid that made a name for himself on the Sunday night matchup versus the Seattle Seahawks, where he was able to get that one-handed interception. The Packers continuously find these hidden gems, just like they found a couple of other players that are on their roster right now. And this guy was undrafted. He comes in, he's getting pressure on the quarterback, he's making one-handed interceptions. Jerome Elliott is another one of these good finds for this Packers football team, much like Sam Barrington in the 7th round, that they just continue to uncover players, and that's why they don't have to go out in free agency and make pickups, because they get guys like this that are young on the cheap that come in and produce for them, and he's playing some good football. Mason Crosby misses a field goal right before the half, and so even though the Packers, they didn't dominate the first half, you felt like they played better than a 7-3 lead at the halftime break, but that's what the score was because of the miss by Mason Crosby. But it didn't really matter. Second half, they came out and did much of the same as they did in the first half. Really bottled up, frustrated Colin Kaepernick on the day. And A-Rod was solid. It wasn't one of these 327-yard, 4-touchdown pass games like he's had over the first couple of weeks of the season. This was more like the first week of the season where they played the Bears. Aaron Rodgers had 186 yards passing, a couple of touchdown tosses. They beat the Bears, but they didn't have the football a lot in the game. Bears controlled the time of possession. The 49ers didn't do that. They actually played some good defense, but the defense of the Packers was outstanding in this game, holding the 49ers to just 3 points and giving the Packers the win on the road. But you go to the 49ers and talk about what they did wrong in this football game. I talked about the huge Will Hoyt penalty on the opening possession of the game. Can't have those type of mistakes again. You're not better than the Green Bay Packers, so you don't need to help them and assist them with any penalties, giving them new life. That was a great start to the game for the defense, and to have Will Hoyt have that penalty and give them a first down and then see Aaron Rodgers driving about 85 yards thereafter for a touchdown. that's backbreaking, and it definitely was backbreaking for the 49ers in this football game. I thought the defense played outstanding. If you hold the Green Bay Packers to 17 points, you're supposed to win. End of discussion. For some teams that may not fly, but if you hold the Packers to under 20, you're doing something right, number one. Number two, you're supposed to win a football game. And you gotta win when you hold Aaron Rodgers and company to just 17 points. That's what this defense did. They pressured Aaron Rodgers all day. They frustrated him. They flustered him. They kept him on the move all day long. He was never comfortable in the pocket. But yet the offense did not do enough to win this football game. And it's really simple in this game. This is a point scoring league. Touchdowns win, field goals don't. And the 49ers simply did not get to pay dirt in this football game on the offensive side. Colin Kaepernick, he ran a lot more in this game, and that's what he needs to do. That is part of his identity and his DNA as a quarterback. I know he wants to grow and blossom as a passer in this league, and I don't want to say that will come, because I don't know if that will come or not, but he's best when he's on the move. He's best when he's using his legs as a secondary option, and sometimes even a primary option, to make things happen and be a playmaker. And he did that a lot more in this game than he did last week. That was one of my complaints last week against Arizona, was that he didn't use his legs, and there were opportunities to use his legs to get outside the pocket. But all in all, I feel like he's got the same thing going on that Robert Griffin III suffers from currently, and that's lack of confidence. This is a guy that came in the league uber confident, making all the throws. I mean, there's simple plays right now. There's one thing, it's one thing when a guy's not reading the defense, not reading the coverages, not making smart decisions with the football. Then there's other things like one hopping a open Anquan Bolden on a comeback, on a stop route, and short hopping. And that's not something that Colin Kaepernick used to do. And he's struggling with just the simple things right now. And I think it's just a matter of confidence. And I don't know what the 49ers can do to reinstill that confidence in him. But right now he's struggling with just the simple things. And I think it's all mental. And I think it's just a lack of confidence right now. He needs that back, and I just don't know the answer as to how to get that back, because it's frustrating. You got receivers out there running around, getting open, and Colin Kaepernick simply cannot get them the football. This offensive line is bad. Speaking of which, right side of the offensive line stinks. This offensive line doesn't give him enough time, and for a guy that's already lacking in confidence, the last thing he needs is to see colors flash, because it's going to make him panic and make him want to take off with the football and not allow him to go through his progressions and make good, solid throws and reads. So there's a lot of issues going on with this 49ers team on the offensive side of football. A lot of them stemming from the lack of production from the quarterback position of Colin Kaepernick. But all in all, 17-3 is your final score here. Green Bay pitched basically a shutout on the defensive side of football. And I thought the defense played well enough for the 49ers to get it done. Like I said, you hold the Packers and Aaron Rodgers to 17 points. That's supposed to be good enough for a W, but it wasn't on this day, as the Green Bay Packers go to 4-0 with a 17-3 win, dropping the 49ers to 1-3 on the season. You go to the next matchup, Cleveland at San Diego. San Diego Superchargers. Another game without Johnny two-time in the lineup. But I told you last week, I thought Josh McCown, sans for that final throw of the game that was picked off by Uncle Charles, had a really good showing, and he had an even better one in this game. He looks a lot more like the Josh McCown of 2013 that was playing some outstanding football for the Chicago Bears and almost sneaking them in the back door of the postseason, more so than the one we saw last year in Tampa that just couldn't get right. So I think the Browns are really feeling good about what they're getting out of the quarterback position. The defense needs to step up. Let's talk about Cleveland real quick. Duke Johnson starting to get comfy in this offense, and that's what I was waiting on, to see some of the younger guys. They had a really good draft class in my estimation. I want to see that some of these guys start contributing to this football team, and Duke Johnson being one of the chief guys in that draft class that I want to see contribute to this offense, especially because he's a guy that is a mismatch nightmare. You can't put a linebacker on him. He's too quick, he's too shifty, he's too fast. He can run routes like a receiver, which you saw in this football game. His first touchdown catch, a long catch over the top, running right behind a linebacker, getting open in the end zone. Josh McCown laying it out there beautifully in the end zone for a catch and a touchdown. He can do that. Josh McCown, I thought he played outstanding in this game, and Duke Johnson starting to get really comfortable. He had about 7 or 8 catches in this game, one going for a touchdown, as I just mentioned. He's starting to get acclimated. They can hand it to him. They can throw it to him. He's going to be a very good player out of the backfield for this Cleveland Browns football team. Gary Barnidge. The same Gary Barnidge that couldn't catch a lick in Carolina is all of a sudden now a big-time pass-catching threat for this Cleveland Browns football team. Had a nice diving stab that they had to review to overturn and make a catch down to the 1-yard line. I think he had another 100-yard game, followed that up. He had a 100-yard game last week versus the Raiders, followed up with another big performance versus the San Diego Chargers. Gary Barnidge, I'm telling you, he's not on your fantasy football team, and he's out there lingering around. He's doing a lot more work than some of these other tight ends out around the league. Might want to give this guy a sniff. Browns hanging around after Travis Benjamin, big-time punt returner. You know, he can be a big-time factor in the punt return game. Had a nice return. And Travis Coons, 4 for 4 on field goal attempts in this game. Anytime you're on the road, period, it doesn't really matter, home, away, you need your field goal kicker to connect on opportunities, and Travis Coons was perfect in this game, 4 for 4, banging them home and putting in work. 2-point conversion to Doug Gabriel after Gary Barnidge had a touchdown snag. Ties this ball game up at 27. The Browns simply would not go away. I thought this game was over when they were down 27-19. I had written them off, thought they were done, and they were able to come back, go down the field, get in the end zone, get the 2-point conversion to Gabriel to tie this football game up. But as fate would have it, and that's why they're the Cleveland Browns, this is something that would only happen to the likes of the Cleveland Browns. The San Diego Chargers go down the field, attempt the game-winning field goal. Their kicker, Josh Lambo, misses, but Tramon Williams is offsides. How? Don't ask me. I don't know. Stop asking. They get a mulligan, do-over, 5 yards closer. End result, banged home field goal, game-winner, drive home safely. Chargers win 30-27. Let's talk about the Chargers and how they were able to get to that end result at 30-27. Malcolm Floyd, another injury, concussion. He's getting up there in age, and I believe he's like 34 years old. So, and we've seen this with him before, whether it's a concussion or we know about the gruesome and very dangerous and scary neck injury he had a couple years back. He seems to always be banged up, and I think M80's career is coming to an end. And this may be one of those injuries where he may not come back for a while from it, and we'll see what happens with him. But Phillip Rivers is spreading the ball around, and not just in the first half, but this entire game. And I really like his supporting cast this season. If the offensive line can just stay healthy and get in gear, I really like the guys that he has to throw the football to. You're talking about K.A. Keenan Allen. You're talking about Dontrell Inman with a huge catch and run down to the 1-yard line in this football game. You're talking about LG. Nice to see him back in the lineup after missing the game last week in Ladarius Green. And then you're going to get Antonio Gates, Big Tone, coming back after his 4-game suspension. Danny Woodhead. There's just guys on top of guys. And I haven't even mentioned Stevie Johnson. There are plenty of big players to get the football to in this offense. They still don't have Jacoby Jones, who's dealing with an injury as well. There are plenty of weapons. I like the supporting cast for Phillip Rivers. I don't think he's had this much talent in a long time in San Diego to spread the football around. 2 big plays by Inman. I just talked about his big catch and run down to the 1-yard line, setting up a touchdown. LG had a nice catch in the end zone over a defender, taking it over. And that's what you do. You throw it up to a big 6'6" target and allow him to go and high point the football and take it away from defenders. And that's what LG did on that touchdown pass. I don't think there's a quarterback in the league that gives his receivers a chance to win jump balls better than Phillip Rivers in this league, and you saw it on that play. Woodhead had a nice catch and run and a touchdown, and so Keenan Allen had a nice dive and stab in the back of the end zone. There are a lot of playmakers on this team, and Phillip Rivers will get the football to you if you're on the field and you can get open and win. Injuries are piling up on this football team. I've talked about the offensive line and the injuries they had to deal with. I think there were 3 new starters along the offensive line this game because of the injuries. Then you're already missing one of your corners in Jason Verrett. Then Brandon Flowers goes down with a concussion in this game. So the injuries are just starting to mount for this Chargers team. They can just stay healthy. This is a dangerous team in the AFC West. But the big story from this game was the missed field goal by Josh Lambo to win at the end. But the offsides penalty, as I mentioned before, the aforementioned penalty on Tramon Williams, giving Josh Lambo a mulligan in a second. And he had actually kicked well in this game up until the ending field goal. He was 2 for 2. He was playing good football. He was kicking the football through the uprights, and then he had that hiccup, which is a big one. When the game's on the line, that's when you want your kicker to step up and have his best performance. And he did not do that, but got another chance, 5 yards closer, and he knocked it home and gave the Chargers their second win of the season, 30-27. They're now 2-2 on the season. Home for the Steelers without Ben Roethlisberger on Monday Night Football. That's going to be a huge matchup. That could have playoff implications down the road when we start talking about wild cards potentially. So if you're the Chargers, no Roethlisberger, at home, bright lights, big stage, you need to get this football game and really give yourself a chance later on down the line. For the Cleveland Browns, another heartbreaking, gut-wrenching loss. You had a chance last week against the Raiders. You let that one slip through your fingers. You had a chance here. You let this game slip through your fingers. Tough way to go down if you are the Cleveland Browns, who are now 1-3 on the season. We go to a really fun matchup in week number 4 in the National Football League. The Arizona Cardinals at home taking on the St. Louis Rams. A little bit of NFC West family business. You know how this goes. If these two teams said they ain't did it, then they ain't did it. But if they did, well, that's family business. And you know, there's nothing like some good old-fashioned NFC West family business. And you know, those teams usually lock horns, and it's going to be close, it's going to be tough and physical. There's going to be some turnovers and some big plays, and that's what this game had. And none was bigger than the very first play of the game, the opening kickoff. And if you're the St. Louis Rams, I talked about the Arizona Cardinals and how the University of Phoenix Stadium was one of the toughest places, the toughest place to play in this league. And you know, when it comes to family business, these teams could care less where the games are being played, home, away. They know these teams. That's why it's family business. It's very intimate. So you can kind of throw that out the window. If somebody's going to get one of these teams at home, it's going to be a family member. But in order to beat a team like Arizona, who was red hot coming into this game, you need to jump out to an early lead. You need to start fast. And that's something that the Rams haven't really done this season outside of week 1. Haven't really started fast in ball games. This was a really good start to the game. Made a big play early on, opening kickoff. The rookie phenom, David Johnson, coughs it up. Big time play by Mark Barron to force a fumble, recovered by the Rams, and they got off to a quick start. Showtime, Tavon Austin got busy in this game. I'm going to talk a little bit about Showtime and his role in this offense because he's starting to emerge as the player that they went up and drafted. They traded up to go and get Tavon Austin, and he's starting to play like a big-time player. You know what it is, Showtime. And I thought that touchdown to start the game right out the gates was huge. They needed to get off to a fast start, and that's exactly what they did. Then the defense, and the one thing I can say about the Rams defensively is that when they play either a family member or a big-time opposition, they get up and they play some outstanding defense, and they did that in this game. Janoris Jenkins flagged for a PI in the end zone on Michael Floyd, puts the football on the 1-yard line. The defense raises their game, buckles down, gets a stop, forces the Cardinals, who had first and goal from the 1, to attempt a field goal. And it was that type of day for this Rams defense. They forced 5 Arizona Cardinal field goals, did not let the Cardinals, who had been scoring at will this season, get in the end zone until the later stages of this football game. The Rams D was balling in the first half, and the O was taking care of the football, but for as good as they had played in that first half, they didn't have much to show for it. They were only up 10-9 in the ball game, and I felt like, man, for as good as you played in this first half, forcing a turnover, getting an early touchdown, you're only up 1 point. You should be up by more than that. It just felt like this is a game there for the Cardinals to run away with, which is usually what happens. Rams play them close, late in the ball game, the turnover or 2 happens, Patrick Peterson runs a punt back, or he runs an interception back and blows the game open. That didn't happen this game. I kept waiting for a Patrick Peterson punt return, and he almost bust one. But I kept waiting and waiting for something big to happen, and it just never came. This Rams defense, this Rams football team, this was a team win, played outstanding in this game. After T-Mac forced a fumble, and I'll tell you what, man, we're going to talk about a guy having an outstanding game, T-Mac. Tim McDonald Jr., TJ McDonald. He was outstanding in this game, man. Him and Showtime. If you're talking about game balls being handed out, you're going to give a game ball to Showtime on the offensive side. I know Todd Gurley, don't call him Gurley, he's a man. That guy had an outstanding game, but Showtime was the showstopper on the offensive side, and T-Mac was the man on the defensive side. That hit he put on Larry Fitzgerald, put the football on the carpet and allowed the Rams to recover. That was a huge play in the game, led to more points. I just thought that this team wanted this game more than the Arizona Cardinals. I think the Cardinals just expected the Rams to come in, lay down for them, and the Rams weren't having it. They were physical, they were forcing the issue, they forced turnovers in this game. They were the hungrier team. They looked like a team that couldn't afford to fall to 1-3 and have to go to Green Bay next week. They knew what was on the line. They knew that their season could be in the balance if they were to lose this football game, and they came out and they played like it, and they got it done. And I think Tavon Austin, man, Showtime is really starting to get integrated and acclimated to this. And more importantly, I think that they're understanding how to use this guy. And I don't know if it's your new offensive coordinator or what the situation is, but he just looks more comfortable in the offensive scheme. It's not just gadgety plays. He actually ran a slant for a touchdown in this game. He ran another a deep ball down the field, and he caught that. Tavon Austin can be a real receiver. You don't have to use him on jet sweeps all the time, which he's really effective at. They ran one in this game, and he picked up about 11 yards. But you can do other things with him. I liken him to Percival Harvin. You don't have to make this guy like the Seahawks did with Percival Harvin. You don't have to make this guy into a gadgety receiver. He's good enough to be a real receiver that can do gadgety things. And so I really like the way they're using him in this offense now, because they're using him like a real receiver, and that makes him more of a threat on the field. Instead of you having to key on him for a reverse or a jet sweep or a wide receiver screen, he's actually running real routes, and he's getting open and he's winning, because that quickness, that speed in that package is just hard to contain. He was outstanding in this game. 2 touchdowns for Showtime, Tavon Austin, and Tim McDonald Jr. T-Mac was outstanding on the defensive side of the football. But the closers finished this game. And who are the closers? This young Rams offensive line, Jamon Brown, Rob Havenstein. You got the young fella at tackle. You got a very young offensive line, and when the game was in the balance, when the Cardinals didn't get it done, and you got the football back, Cardinals still having all 3 of their timeouts, you put it on this line, you gave it to Todd Gurley. Don't call him Gurley, he's a man. You gave it to Todd Gurley, and that young fella was able to run unmolested, because this offensive line knew what time it was, game time. And they got it done. Gurley knew to stay in bounds. Heady rookie. I like this young man. I like the way he runs the football. I like his mentality. There's a lot of good here with this Rams football team. The thing that you have to ask yourself, Rams fan, not a Rams fan, consistency. Can you do this week in, week out? It doesn't have to be a big time opponent. It doesn't have to be a family member. It shouldn't have to be the Steelers or the Broncos or the Colts or the Packers for you to get up and play good football. That shouldn't have to be the Seahawks or the Cardinals for you to play top-notch football. You need to be able to do this same thing to the Redskins. You need to be able to do this same thing to a lesser opponent. If Cleveland comes to St. Louis, then you need to put Cleveland down. Lay them down nice and quick and easy and painless, okay? When you play lesser opponents, you need to get up for them just like you do the big boys. This team plays to the level of their competition, and while that's a great thing when you're playing the upper echelon teams, which is why this St. Louis Rams team can go on the road to Indy and win 38-8. They can beat Peyton Manning in their own building and hurt Juice and hurt Peyton Manning and affect their season moving forward. Can beat the Seattle Seahawks early in the season in overtime, 34-31. Can beat the Arizona Cardinals in Arizona 24-22, but then lose to the Redskins, lose to the Minnesota Vikings and get blown out. This team can be Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde when they start playing with consistency, when they start playing every opponent the same and keep it a level bar straight across. They need to stay even keeled. The problem with this team is they're such a young football team with so much enthusiasm and so much veracity that they get up for the big teams and they expend so much energy that they go on an emotional high. Like when they beat Seattle in week 1, they come down off of that emotional high, they go off a cliff, and the next thing you know, they don't show up the next week versus the Redskins. That's a problem, one that needs to be corrected. You got an opportunity to go to Green Bay next week and do something big, something that no one's done in eons. Win in Green Bay, force Aaron Rodgers to throw a turnover interception. He hasn't done that in forever. Go and do something big next week. Do it again. Don't go out to Green Bay and lay an egg. Go out there and play like you did in this game on the road and beat a team that was previously undefeated and just outstanding at home. You got a chance to do something big next week. But let's talk about Arizona in this game quickly. David Johnson fumbling the opening kickoff was huge because that gave the Rams the confidence that they needed to get out in front and have some momentum. If you get that football, and even if you do nothing with it but punt, it's an even game. It's 0-0. You got a chance to do some big things in this game, but instead, that fumble put you behind the 8 ball. And I thought he had a rough start to this game. He's still a phenom. He's outstanding. I love David Johnson, but he also dropped a touchdown in this game as well. So he had a really rough start in this football game. He fumbles the opening kickoff, leads to a Showtime touchdown, turns around, drops an easy touchdown, would have walked in and would have gave you an opportunity to take the lead in the ball game. Instead, he drops it. You got to settle for another field goal, and that made it 7-6 in the game instead of you taking a 10-7 lead. You take the lead there, probably a different ball game, but again, that's what you get out of rookies. You're going to have your big ups and downs. You're going to have your peaks and your valleys. That's what rookies do. They're going to give, they're going to take. Rookies give it, rookies take it away. I had an article on my website stating that same exact thing, and that's exactly why I had that title as such. Another uncharacteristic turnover by this Arizona Cardinal team with Carson Palmer throwing a deep ball in the end zone in the double coverage. When I actually saw the game break for this, I was expecting a Sheriff John Brown, 55-yard touchdown, splitting the seam, and Carson hitting him in stride, and he walking into the end zone and doing some kind of crazy nonsense. But I got double coverage, Janoris Jenkins, David Tyree in the football against his helmet and picking it off, and that led to more points. And this Cardinals team was just out of sync in this football game. And give credit where credit is due, the Rams had a lot to do with them being out of sync in this football game. El Boogie's fumble forced by T-Mac was huge. Carson Palmer hits him beautifully down the sideline. Larry gets 2 feet down, looks like he's trying to put the football away. Here comes T-Mac out of nowhere, and he's a ferocious hitter. We know that. He also had another hit on a running back in the hole, lit him up. I mean, he was outstanding in this game. It was T-Mac, but that fumble gave the Rams another opportunity to put more points on the scoreboard, and so it was just too many turnovers for a Cardinals team that had been doing a great job of taking care of the football. That was the third and final turnover of the day, but that was another costly mistake by a Cardinals team that generally, especially at home, doesn't make those type of mistakes. I thought Chris Johnson looked fantastic. He's almost to the point where I'm going to start calling him CJ2K again. I can't do that yet because it takes a lot for me to give you back your nickname, but that guy looks really spry. He's got his legs back, and there were some jump cuts and some moves, and he was getting out in space. Really like what you're getting out of Chris Johnson right now. Your Johnson boys in the backfield, they look dynamite right now. You continue to get production out of them like this, you're going to win a lot more games than you're going to lose this season. Arizona jerked around on the Cunningham fumble. That was a terrible call by the officials. His forward progress was not stopped. They should not have blown the whistle dead. He was still moving forward. They poked the ball free. That should have been a recovery deep in Rams territory that would have led to points for this Cardinals football team. I thought the officials did a poor job of managing the game in that situation and re-awarding the football to the St. Louis Rams via forward progress. And I just thought that was a terrible call, and I thought that was a fumble, and the Cardinals should have had the football there. But at the end of the day, all of that aside, the Cardinals still had a chance to win this football game, okay? They move it down the field. The defense did enough to get you the football back in a position where you could win this game. You get past midfield, you get right around that midfield stripe, and you start acting crazy. David Johnson runs for 8 yards on first down. It's 2nd and 2. Bruce Arians decides to throw the football. Okay, that's fine. I know BA, he wants to throw the football. But 3rd and 2, this is 4 down territory. We understand it. You got all 3 timeouts right before the 2-minute warning, so this is 4 down territory for all intents and purposes. So shouldn't matter. Run the football on 3rd down. You got 8 on first down, why not run it again and see if you can't pick up a first down? If you don't, guess what? You got 4th down to throw it again if you want to throw it. No, BA decides he wants to throw it on 3rd and 2 as well. Incomplete. What does BA do on 4th and 2? Throw it again. Incomplete. And that, my friends, is how you throw a ball game away. Bad play calling. And I don't say this very often about Bruce Arians because he's masterful as a head coach, but he dropped the ball in this football game. That was poor play calling. You run for 8 on 1st down and throw it 3 consecutive times when all you needed was 2 yards. And all you needed was a field goal. It's not like you needed a touchdown to win this game. All you needed was a field goal, and I thought Bruce Arians mismanaged not only the end of the game situation, he mismanaged what he needed from his team. They didn't need a big play. They didn't need a touchdown. They didn't need a 30-yard gain. They simply needed a 1st down. And he failed to call a play that would get them in the best position to get that 1st down. And then the defense comes on the field. They need to stop. They got all 3 other timeouts, and they let Todd Gurley and the closers, that offensive line, put him away, get to the outside. Todd Gurley stays in bounds and makes them pay. Huge day for the rookie. Don't call him Gurley. He's all man. Goes all for a bucket and some change on about 16 carries. Just a tremendous effort by him. And I'm telling you right now, I was wondering when the St. Louis Rams would take the bubble wrap off this kid and let him play. And I see why they kept him in that bubble wrap this whole time. That was a special package, special delivery. That guy right there delivered in this football game. Rams go on the road and win. Huge victory, 22-24 over the Arizona Cardinals. If they would have lost this game, like I mentioned before, they would have had to go to Green Bay at 1-3. Pretty much a foregone conclusion that they would have left that game at 1-4. Now, with confidence in their back pocket at 2-2, it's a different ball game in week number 5. For the Cardinals, tough loss. Now you got to go on the road, try to get back in the win column versus a winless, hungry, starving Detroit Lions team. Good luck. You're going to need it. That's not going to be an easy football game. Go to the next matchup. Denver at home taking on the Minnesota Vikings. Minnesota side of things, Teddy showing some wizardry, avoiding sacks with a beautiful strike to Stephon Diggs. But Blair Walsh misses a field goal. The next play is a 72-yard Ronnie Hillman touchdown scamper. That's the way that momentum swings in this league. You have an opportunity to put points on the scoreboard. You don't. Very next play, team takes advantage of your missed opportunity and turns it in. That's a 10-point swing, folks. In basketball, they talk about all the time about, point swings. You miss a shot, long rebound, they go down and they hit a bucket. Or you miss a free throw, they go down and they get a 3-point play. That's a 4-point swing. That's a 10-point swing there, fellas. Ladies and gentlemen, that's a 10-point swing. You go from putting 3 on the board yourself to giving up a 7 the very next play. That's tough to deal with. That's tough to stomach, is what that is. Anthony Barr interception changes this game as it leads to a 60 minutes touchdown as Mike Wallace. This was by far his best game as a Viking, as Mike Wallace gets in the end zone. And this game looked like it was heading for, 24-10, something real obscure, 23-13. But that Anthony Barr interception changed the game, put them in a position to not only tie this game up at the half, and it was tied, but Denver actually goes right down the field and gets a field goal before the half to take the lead. But to not only tie this game back up at 10, but it really gave them the confidence that, hey, we can win this football game. And it kept them where they needed to be within arm's reach. If they let this game get to a 10, 13, 14, 17-point lead, they weren't going to catch up to the Broncos and they were going to lose and it wasn't going to be close. But instead, they kept the Broncos within arm's reach, and that's why they had a shot at the end of this game. 4th and 1, AD takes off, gallops for a long 50-yard touchdown to make it 20-17. They cut the lead to just 3. Harrison Smith with another interception. This team, they play some good defense. And I've been saying that week 1 performance was lackluster, didn't look like what you were going to see from this team for the most part this season. They went in and they competed in a tough environment against a damn good football team, and they went toe-to-toe with them. They forced 2 Peyton Manning interceptions. They were in this ball game. That interception by Harrison Smith makes it 20-20 after the Vikings are able to get a field goal to knot it up. Adam Thielen and Stephon Diggs were huge in this game. No Charles Johnson, out with an injury, so the young fella Stephon Diggs gets to play, and he was outstanding in this game. So was Adam Thielen, and I tell you what, Adam Thielen was wheeling and dealing, and Stephon Diggs was doing it big. And I'll tell you what, this is a Vikings offense that's starting to come together. They're starting to get it. They're just one plays away. They're starting to make some noise in that NFC North. But the Broncos get it done in this game, and here's why. This defense is ridiculous, man. It's almost like you're cheating with this defense because there are guys at every level that makes plays. They've got TJ Ward back there, who was the NFL Defensive Player of the Week because of what he contributed in this ball game. You've got 2 shutdown corners on the outsides, and Chris Harris Jr. and Aqib Talib. You make a mistake, those guys make you pay for your mistake. And then, of course, you've got linebackers that can run. And then you've got DeMarcus Ware. And, oh, by the way, Von Miller as well. Shane Ray coming off the bench. The Barrett kid. There's just so many guys on this team that can make you pay. Jackson along that defensive line. They're going to get Wolf back this week. There's so many players on this team. It's not even funny on the defensive side of the football. This is a really good defense. And when they put it together with Wade Phillips pulling the strings, they're going to be a team that you don't want to play come playoff time. And that's why Peyton Manning doesn't have to be perfect. And I think the fact that Peyton Manning is struggling right now, it's a good thing. These close games are good for the Denver Broncos. I think that inflated self that they have every year when they beat teams up 42-14 and 38-17, that doesn't test them. That doesn't test their mettle. So when things get tough in the postseason, scores become lower, and you got to find a way to grind it out. They don't have that in them because they don't go through that grind during the regular season. They beat teams up, they blow them out. It's easy. They get it done, or at least they make it look easy. But they don't get tested. Okay, they don't get to actually show what their mettle is like. They've been tested every game this season. Nothing has come easy to this Denver Broncos team, and I think that's going to benefit them come playoff time down the road. But that interception that Peyton Manning had in the first half to Anthony Barr, that was terrible timing because they were in control of this game. They were going for more points. If they put up even a field goal in that situation, I think they're going to be able to run away with this game. But because he made that mistake, allow Anthony Barr to run it back, put them in a position to get a touchdown, that changed this entire ball game, okay? But there was a huge 80-yard touchdown march to start the second half, and I thought that was tremendous because they needed to put that separation in between them and the Minnesota Vikings, and I think that reestablished a little bit of distance between the two at 20-10, and they needed every single bit of that cushion as the game would end up being tied at 20-all because Peyton Manning threw another interception late in the ball game to Harrison Smith. So you see there's some struggles, some growing pains on the offensive side of football. Peyton Manning has been sacked more this year. He's throwing more interceptions. He's coming back to earth, okay? All the skills that he had throughout his career, they're starting to wane. He's having to rely a lot more on timing and his smarts than his actual physical makeup. Those things are starting to leave. But because this defense is still good, the running game needs to come along. They're still not where they want to be running the football. That 72-yard Ronnie Hillman touchdown helps, but it's not where they want to be. They want to be more consistent and not just a big play rushing attack. They need to have the ability to get chunks 8, 7, 15, 12, 9, 4, 3, 7. They don't have that going on right now. There's a lot of lost yardage on plays, tackles for losses. There are a lot of plays where they get 1 or minimal gains. They've got to start being more consistent on the ground and help Peyton Manning out. Because I don't think he's in a position, and I think they don't want him to be in a position where he's got to carry this team on his back. I don't think he's capable of doing that anymore. But this defense is more than capable of carrying this offense if they can't get it done. And you saw it again in this game. After a solid drive by the Broncos late in the ball game, their kicker Brandon McManus continues to be clutch. I love this kid. And I always wondered, was it a mistake getting rid of Matt Prater. We knew he had off the field issues, and that's why they cut ties with him. But I always wondered, is that a mistake? Nope, it wasn't a mistake. This kid McManus is the truth, and he hits another field goal to give the Broncos a 23-20 lead, which would be your final score in this game, as the Broncos D shuts the door with their 5th and 6th, or 6th and 7th, sacks of the day. Von Miller getting in there first, and he hit me with the I'm not getting fined again. And TJ Ward finishing the job, slamming the door shut with a sack, forced fumble strip that is recovered by the Broncos and giving them the 23-20 win. Big win for the Denver Broncos, keeps them undefeated at 4-0, and it sets up a huge matchup with them and the Raiders. They have a chance to really put some distance between them and everyone else in the division. They beat the Raiders, drop the Raiders to 2-3, go to 5-0, and if the Chargers don't get it done on Monday Night Football, the closest team will be at 2-3. For all intents and purposes, they've got the green light to run away with this division. So, big game in Week 5 on the road versus the Raiders. Got to put the young upstart Raiders in their place. This is the perfect time to do it at the crib, at their house. Let them know that they're not ready for the AFC West crown quite yet. You go to the next football game, Dallas Cowboys at the New Orleans Saints, Sunday Night Football. It's going to be tough for the Cowboys without Tony Romo. Let's talk about them real quick. Running game doing what it has to do to produce a win with Whedon at quarterback early in this game. Similar to what we saw in week number 3 with them against the Falcons. Early in the game, the running game comes out, establishes itself, gives them some opportunities to score some points. Looks really good, looks dominant at times even, but they do not sustain it, and that's the thing that's hurting this team. If they come out, they establish the run early, they have momentum, they score some points, and then they bog down, do nothing, absolutely zero in the second half, and the other team is able to gain ground and ultimately pass them at some point in the second half because of the stagnant nature of the Cowboys offense, and the Cowboys lose the football game. Similar situation here. They come out, they score early in this ball game, do absolutely nothing in the second half until late in the ball game. The Cowboys' injuries are starting to pile up, and there's some teams that are really banged up around the league. Cowboys are one of them. They lose Sean Lee to a concussion in this game. They also lose Dunbar, who's done for the season with an ACL injury, and then they lose Bryce Butler, who they just acquired from the Raiders, catches a deep ball for about 40 or 50 yards and leaves the game with a hamstring injury shortly thereafter. And they just couldn't buy a break in this game from an injury standpoint. Too many penalties. They had a penalty, a too many men penalty on on a play where the Saints were going to have to punt the football. Too many men on the field, gives them a first down, and the Saints are able to get a field goal out of that possession again. You're not good enough without Tony Romo and Dez Bryant to do things like that. That allows the game to be knotted up at 10. And then, like I said, not having anything going for them in the second half has been a problem for the last 2 weeks. The same thing happened in this game. They were down 13-20 late in the ball game when they finally put together a scoring drive and produced a touchdown to T. Will in the back of the end zone. Gorgeous diving catch. He had struggled all night. He was dealing with Delvin Breaux, who was all over him. They were going tit for tat the entire night. And he finally made a play to T. Will, and that gave them an opportunity to tie this football game up at 20. Looked like we were going to overtime, but Drew Brees was masterful in this game. Let's go to the New Orleans Saints. Drew Brees looking sharp early, connecting on 9 of his first 12 passing attempts, including a touchdown to Josh Hill. The Saints D hanging tough. The O was sputtering. The defense continued to give them opportunities in this ball game to hang around, have a chance to win. They finally got their act together in the later stages of the second half and scoring some points and giving them an opportunity to win this football game. The youngins are playing ball in New Orleans, and I've talked about this earlier in the season. I actually talked about this after week 1 because I could see the young man movement that was going on in New Orleans. And I said that the thing I love about what they're doing right now, and I wasn't a big fan of their mass exodus in the offseason, but if you're going to do something like that, then you need to let the youngins play football. Let the young guys come out and prove their worth to this football team, and you're seeing it. Delvin Breaux, who I mentioned earlier as a guy that's just playing ball. You got Haoli Kikaha out there getting sacks, forced a fumble and another sack in this ball game. You got Stephon Anthony being the general in the middle of this defense. And even Bobby Richardson, a guy that's undrafted from Indiana, coming in. And I thought he was a draftable football player. I feel like that's a steal for you. He's playing ball along that defensive line. So there are a lot of contributors that are young on the defensive side of football for this Saints team. And you got young guys on the offensive side contributing as well. This is a young football team. If they can just find a way to minimize the mistakes, they'll have some chances with number 9 at the helm. Willie Snead stepping up, another young guy, really helping out this Saints offense. And again, like I said, a lot of youngins putting in work for this Saints football team. And I thought that the drive where they set up the game-winning field goal was just masterful. It was just Drew Brees at his best, doing what he does, especially on the big stage. He is outstanding on the national stage, especially Sunday night. It looked like they were well on their way to another victory, but their kicker, Zach Hocker, had other ideas. Couldn't connect on a 30-yard chip shot. This game goes to overtime, knotted at 20. When you want something done right, you better do it yourself. And so the Saints said, you know what? We probably don't want to send our field goal kicker, Zach Hocker, back on the field for another field goal attempt. He didn't get it done from 30. That's damn near an extra point. He can't make that. We probably don't need to send him back on the field. So what does Drew Brees do? Takes it into his own hands, finds a streaking CJ Spiller, talking about Spiller, CJ Spiller, down the sideline on a wheel route, beats the linebacker, smokes him for a touchdown. Game, set, match, good night, drive home safely. Saints get their first win of the season, 26-20 over the Dallas Cowboys, who now drop 2 straight and find themselves in a 3-way tie in the NFC East at 2-2. It's going to be tough sledding until Tony Romo comes back. I think you'd have a much better chance with Matt Castle at quarterback. Don't know how long it's going to take him to get up to speed, but Brandon Weeden isn't going to win you many football games. I can assure you of that. You got Tom Brady and the Patriots coming up next, so I don't know what you're going to do there. They're coming off a bye week. They're prepared. They're undefeated. Good luck. Go to our final game of week number 4 in the National Football League. The Detroit Lions at the Seattle Seahawks. Felt bad for the Detroit Lions, to be honest with you. To start the season 0-3 and then have to go to Seattle on Monday Night Football, not an easy feat for anyone. But it's a dangerous, hungry football team who was in the playoffs last year. So if anyone had a chance to get out of the funk of being winless and in Seattle on a Monday night, it was this Lions football team, because they play defense, and that's the one thing you gotta do if you're gonna go on the road and upset a team with a home field advantage. Let's talk about the Lions in this football game first. Lions offense inconsistent throughout this game. The O-line and the running game was terrible, and that goes hand in hand. The O-line's terrible, hence the running game really didn't have a chance. The first play of the game for me was indicative of what's wrong with this Lions team from an offensive standpoint. You can't get into a rhythm, and look, I don't want to make any excuses for Joe Lombardi. I think he's struggling right now as an offensive coordinator, but you can't get into a rhythm as a play caller when you try to hand the football off on first down and you lose 3 or 4 yards. That puts you in a predictable second and long situation where you gotta throw the football. Your offensive line isn't very good. Teams know you have to throw on 2nd and 13. They pin their ears back to come after your quarterback. It's incomplete. He's sacked. Next thing you know, it's 3rd and 16, it's 3rd and 13, and what do? I mean, that's a tough predicament to be in on a consistent basis, and that's what this team has been in because the lack of running game, because the lack of consistency, because the offensive line isn't very good. So it's a really slippery slope right now offensively for this Lions football team. Number of injuries for the Lions in this game, Easy E being the biggest, because I thought he was well on his way to having a career night. He was catching the football. They were exploiting the middle of that Seahawks defense, and that's the place that you really need to go if you're going to try to take advantage of the Seahawks, because they play that single high safety with Earl Thomas running frenetically all around the field. The middle of the field generally open against this football team. They were taking advantage of it early with Easy E. He leaves the game, and the offense really started to bog down when he got injured, if you noticed in this football game. Russell Wilson extending plays, but the defense applying pressure Ansah, Wilson, Josh Wilson came on a corner blitz one time, got him down. A header ball was huge in this game. Terrell Austin mixing it up and really flustering. Even the plays that Russell Wilson made in this game, he was under duress and he had to turn into dangerous Russell Wilson. That's the only reason he was making plays. Terrell Austin had him flummoxed. They were in the backfield, and that, you talk about the Lions' offensive line being a very big hindrance. Look at that Seattle Seahawks offensive line. It's not much better over there on that side of the football. So Terrell Austin was mixing it up. They were hitting home. Their problem was they couldn't get the slippery Russell Wilson down on the ground. But what they did do was they applied pressure. They sacked him a ton of times, and they got the football on the carpet. Russell Wilson led the league in fumbles last year. He's well on his way to doing it again. He fumbled about 3 times in this game, 2 for sure. Lost a couple of fumbles, kept the Lions in the game. None bigger than the fumble forced by James Ahedebo, scooped up by Karan Reed, the big defensive tackle out of Princeton. He rumbled, big man rumbles into the end zone, and all of a sudden, a game that looked well in hand at 13-3, all of a sudden it's 13-10. Lions have a shot to get the football back, drive it down the field, late stages of the game. Looks like they got everything they want to get the ball into Muggletron. He looks like he's about to get in the end zone. And bam, bam, bam. Cam Chancellor play the game, punches the football out as Calvin Johnson is about to extend it over the goal line. Goes out of the back of the end zone, or back out of the back of the end zone. Nonetheless, Seahawks take over, win the football game 13-10. Let's talk about the batted ball controversy and Seattle in this game. Let's start with Seattle though. The defense was flying around in this football game. That's an understatement. That's what they do, especially when they're at home. They turn it up a couple notches when they're in front of the 12th man, and they were doing that in this game. Really flustering the Lions offense, giving them nowhere to run on the ground, making it hard on Matthew Stafford and his offense. They didn't score an offensive touchdown, did the Lions in this game. Their only touchdown came on a defensive scoop and score. So this defense was flying around like they usually do. Russell Wilson being dangerous. Russell Wilson! And that's great, but you don't want that to be your biggest play in your playbook. Hey, Russell, run around, make something happen, play backyard football. You don't want that to be your best play of the night, but that's what the best play of the night and the play of choice was for this Seahawks football team in this game is, hey Russell, don't get sacked, avoid 4 guys and find a wide open receiver because you created 7 seconds to throw and guys had a chance to uncover and get them the football. So that's something that they're gonna have to clean up. And life without Marshawn Lynch, beast mode, is rough. It's really rough, and you saw what that looks like, and it's not pretty. It's not pretty for the Seattle Seahawks offense. Granted, that Lions defense, forget about the record, forget the fact that they came into this game at 0-3. That's still a really good defense. Don't fool yourself. But that Seahawks offense, they're not right. And that offensive line, a lot of the blame needs to be placed upon them. But you find out really why you need Bam Bam. I mean, no one was ever doubting the fact that they needed him and that he needed to be on the field. But if there was ever a case for this guy needing to be on the field and them needing to, and I don't want to say they need to pay him because they just paid him a couple years ago. I mean, literally, they just ripped up a contract and gave him new money. But did you see the hit that he put on Calvin Johnson? I mean, that was reminiscent of the Super Bowl hit he put on Demaryius Thomas and the other hit that he put on Wes Welker. I mean, we're talking about Megatron here. He laid him down easy. Golden Tate was like, oh, damn, I saw that one coming. It was crazy. I mean, this guy is such a ball player, man. He's such an enforcer. And like I said, he's the boom in the Legion of Boom. And he not only showed it on that play, but the play that was even bigger, the forced fumble late in the game to preserve the win for the Seahawks was just outstanding. And it's what playmakers do. Few guys in the league make the play that he made on that play, and that's why this Seahawks team has been to the Super Bowl the last 2 years, because of plays like that, because of players like Cam Chancellor. He's definitely bang, bang. still disappointed though. Still disappointed. Jimmy Graham, not a bigger part of this offense. And I can't reiterate this enough. This seems to be an every week thing, okay? Every other week thing. That's week 1, he was productive in the second half versus the Rams. Ended up with like 6 or 7 catches in that game and a touchdown. You felt good about that. The next week, against Green Bay, non-existent. The third week against Chicago, he's back to being Jimmy Graham again. 7 catches, a touchdown, a catch and run. He looks like he's starting to get comfortable with the offense. Feel good about it. Week 4, he goes back to being non-existent. So I'm guessing week 5 versus Cincinnati, he's gonna catch 6 or 7 balls for a touchdown and help you win that football game. But this has to stop. You gotta integrate this guy in the game. You gotta make him a bigger part of this offense. You gotta get Jimmy Graham. He's a mismatch anytime he steps on the field. No, he can't block. You already knew that when you acquired him. Stop asking him to do things that he's not comfortable with. Throw him the football though. He's a mismatch nightmare. You get him the football, he can do things that other guys simply cannot do on the field at his position. Life without beast mode sucks, doesn't it? Yeah, I think you figured that out a long time ago, which is why you keep giving this guy new money. But you saw it firsthand what life is like. And Thomas Rawls, I don't want you to feel bad about him. He's not beast mode. But then again, not many guys are. So there's only one of those guys. And he wasn't on the field, and this offense looked bad. When your offensive line is as bad as it is right now, you need guys like beast mode who can make the first guy miss, that can drag defenders, that can get yards after contact. I don't think Thomas Rawls is racking up yards after contact. At least not like beast mode would. So you definitely need that guy if you're gonna have any chance to be a major player, not only in the NFC West, but in the NFC Conference when it's all said and done. But the batted ball controversy seems like every time there's a Monday night game in Seattle, there's some sort of controversy. Bottom line, yes, he did that intentionally, knocked the ball out of bounds. The first thing I said when he did that was, hey, that's a batted ball. Now what I did not know was that the ball was supposed to be awarded back to the Lions, half the distance to the goal, which would have put the ball at the half-yard line. They would have scored a touchdown. But I didn't know they were supposed to get the football back. I just thought it was a penalty that was going to be assessed after the turnover, after the touchback. Seahawks get the football at the 10-yard line. That's what I was thinking, but I did not know the Lions were supposed to get the football back. But at the end of the day, it was a good play. I don't think that the Lions deserve to win this game. You got to take care of the football. You got to do more damage than, play the last 7 minutes of the game and try to sneak a W. The rules are the rules for a reason. They didn't follow the rules. The officials didn't know what the hell was going on at that time. A lot was going on that particular play itself. But the right team won. And let's leave it at that. The Seahawks deserved to win this game. I thought they outplayed the Lions for really 53 minutes. The last 7 minutes of the game is when the Lions made a power move to try to steal this game, and they almost did it. The Seahawks defense, and that's the bread and butter of this team, proved once again why they're one of the best units in all the National Football League. Seahawks go to 2-2 season. Meanwhile, the Detroit Lions, surprisingly, are the last winless team in the league at 0-4. That's going to do it for me in the lab room here on the Hurry Up Offense. If it happens in the National Football League, whether big or small, we cover it all here in the lab room. Come back and join me for the breakdown. And now, in the National Football League. Hurry, hurry! Hurry, hurry! Hut, hut!
There's plenty more where that came from. While you're here, subscribe to the channel. If you want more Louie T, be sure to follow me on Twitter at InTheLabRoom, or you can like the Facebook page at In The Lab Room. That's In The Lab Room on Facebook and at In The Lab Room on Twitter. Don't forget, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so.
Mm-hmm.